And she said, so why should we hire you?
Yeah.
And so I just read off my paper because I had said, this is why I think you should hire me. And she's like, that's a great answer. We're totally going to hire you. I said, well, that was easy. In many ways, you need to be your own chief marketing officer. You need to be curious. You also need to be asking, what can I do to help your business?
Kate, it's great to have you here. As a fellow West Pointer, you are one of the top leaders as a managing partner at Korn Ferry, which is a global executive search firm. And you've got a lot of insights. You've probably seen more resumes than most people have seen in a lifetime.
Yes. I did the math recently just to even get ready. And I thought I'd do about 1,000 interviews a year. If I interview 4 or 5 people a day times 200 working days, that's 1,000 interviews a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. How about that?
Don't you ever get tired of that?
I love people.
Yeah.
I love people, and I love to hear their stories. I love the trajectory of their lives, to uncover their skills.
So it's a different story every time.
It is a different story. And I also like to learn about what makes them tick and their leadership hacks.
So I'm really excited about this conversation because at CareerNerds, we help applicants really shine before they meet you or before they meet company executives. So I really want to get your insight. But first, I want to dive into your exciting career. You started out at West Point.
I did.
Then you had a career in the military, then switched to Wall Street. Is that right?
Yes, financial services broadly.
And then you made this big pivot 11 years ago into executive recruiting. Tell me, what led you into this and what do you like about it?
Well, I grew up in a small town in northern Pennsylvania, more cows than people, more deer than cows. And I spent about 10 years in the Army, 10 years in financial services, and now more than a decade, can you believe it, at Korn Ferry. All along the through line was mission, people, and a combination of both the details, the tactics we would have said in the military, the details about how things work and really being able to execute projects quickly and efficiently, and then also understanding a strategy component as well. So those are the big through lines. In addition, if you would believe it, entrepreneurial endeavors, a little bit of even being an entrepreneur in the Army. I was a military police platoon leader, very much in I think it was the 545th MP company. And then we were assigned to go to Kuwait with a tank battalion. And then I did the same thing with the Iron Horse Division when I was a first lieutenant, and we went to Bosnia. I had to operate separate from my commander a lot. And that was a big part of my experience as a lieutenant. And then I commanded a company in Korea. And then I got out and I went to, really fortunate to go to both the Kennedy School at Harvard and the Harvard Business School. And I did my summer internships in all financial services and really learned a lot about different business models.
I'm just blown away.
Yeah.
You were in Bosnia, Korea,
Yes.
then at Harvard. So
Yes.
such a diverse set of experiences.
Yes, but close to communism
Yeah.
a couple times.
How do you
Yeah.
merge all those experiences
Yes.
into what you're doing these days?
Well, no matter if you are in a village in Bosnia or if you are leading Katusas in Korea, you have to understand how people work and you have to understand how people are motivated. And or if you are on 6th Avenue in New York City, you really have to understand how people are motivated and really understand the customer. In the Army, we don't think about our soldiers as our customer. Maybe we do think about our company commander or the battalion brigade commander as our customer. All along those lines, I had to really serve my people, and sometimes those people were my subordinates, sometimes they were my peers, or sometimes they were my supervisor. And then understanding what motivated that Katusa group as a captain, brand new experience. I had no understanding of the Korean augmentee program. I got to know these young men and how they had gotten to join this particular organization. And now those skills help me understand my clients and also help me understand our candidates as well.
And I think that's one thing great about the military is that they put you into the role and you figure it out. You have to very quickly adapt.
Yes, right. And get the advice and counsel of your non-commissioned officers, your peers, and it's so interconnected. That does bring me to Korn Ferry, right? Because we have the best clients ever.
Well, you're very involved with them.
I am involved.
Because, I mean, this search is very, very critical to their success, right?
Right. The matchmaker, right?
Yeah.
The proverbial matchmaker. So I love the client component because I really get to uncover with them their strategy, their culture, very deep dive into what they're doing every day. And then I get to meet the potential candidates who are thinking about joining this company for their life, right? Not, our work day is ostensibly 9 to 5, but not really. And so you get to find out about folks, their hopes, their dreams, how they work. And
You got to know a lot about them.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun.
So, but what led you actually to executive recruiting? 'Cause
Well,
I'm so fascinated by
Yeah,
that.
I got a coach at one point, and I did all the personality tests, and I did all the interviews and 360s, and I came out of that coaching experience with a 3x5 card.
Wow.
That said, I want to stay in financial services.
Yeah.
That's a language that I have fluency in. And actually Guy Filippelli, he said, "Hey, Kate, you speak this language of finance. Don't ever give it up." And then the second one was, I want to help make the world a better place, right? I want to work on behalf of others. So I want an organization or a sector where I can, if I work hard, I get the fruits of my labor. And then lastly, and in this world of remote, you'll find this funny, I wanted a shorter commute. So I wanted to stay in finance broadly, run my own business, make the world a better place, and not have to commute too far.
And that's essentially what you're doing at Korn Ferry. You are running your own small business within a bigger company, right?
Yeah, both. You said, how did I come here? So I lose myself in a day, either rewriting someone's resume or I'm looking at a resume or I'm researching, I'm trying to find the path of this person's life. And so I get lost in that. And when you go to a coach, they ask you, what's not work? We're trying to all find work that doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And so that came up over and over. And also I like to sprint on projects and really dive in immersively. And so I started interviewing a lot of people, meaning reach out and ask for advice with people who were in the search industry, and everyone's really generous. And so I talked to 40 people. Principals, partners, associates, everyone, and also people who had left different firms and joined them. And I had a classmate his name is Pat Gray. He prepped me for an interview, and he prepped me an hour, and the interview was 7 minutes.
Wow. So I noticed something. You do your homework before.
Yes, I do my homework. Yes.
You actually go to the game, right?
Yes,
you
all the
practice
time.
before you game.
I practice a lot. This is now what I share with people who are transitioning. You have to really understand the market for your skills, and you have to know more about that industry or that company when you walk in, because the interview might be 7 minutes. When I was in an investment banking interview as a grad student, we would have these super days. Have you heard of these?
No.
So it is 6 to 8 interviews.
It's like speed dating or
It
something.
is. They're 15 minutes. 15 minutes over 2.5, 3 hours. And you meet with 6 or 8 managing directors in a company. Boom, 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 boom. You have a power bar, old school, power bar in your purse. And in that interview, I had one interview, and the MD took a call because her client's calling.
Yeah.
So I am just sweating bullets. I'm like, what is going on? I have 15 minutes with this lady. What are you doing? And I was prepared. She hung up the phone and she said, "So why should we hire you?"
Yeah.
And so I just read off my paper because I had said, "This is why I think you should hire me." And she's like, "That's a great answer. We're totally going to hire you." I said, "Well, that was easy." And then she said, what event do you swim? Because I did not prepare for that question.
Yeah.
I said the 1,000, the 1,650, or whatever the coach says. And she said, well, that's a good answer. And she said, we'll see you. I hope we see you this summer. Thanks so much for being here.
That is amazing, because I always tell people the elevator pitch, the 1-minute elevator pitch, is the most important part of an interview and networking.
That was a lesson for me. You have to have your talking points. You have to really understand, why should they hire you? Did we say this in the Army? Be brief, be brilliant, be gone.
No.
But brevity is,
I love it.
Get in, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. No, it takes time. So this is I prepare a lot. The Winston Churchill, right? Prepares every 1 hour for every minute that he's given a speech or something like that. Somebody can fact check. And if you prepare a lot, you can be brief, but it does actually take a lot of time.
When we had our first call last week, I was astonished. You had seen some of my podcasts and you had read my book. And I went and told my team I just had the best networking call ever because she prepared. And I said, we should use this as an example for our clients to tell them how they should prepare for their networking calls.
And how did you feel? Right?
I felt wonderful. I felt like anything you want.
Right? But when you prepare, you can also... We spent time getting to know each other as people. I felt that I could ask you better questions about your business, and I could get ahead in the conversation, like not ahead for value taking, but value ahead for what we could potentially do together.
Well,
right?
Let's actually share what actually happened, because we had a half-an-hour call. I had a hard stop. You wanted to go over. I couldn't.
That's right.
But so we set a meeting for the next day, and I wouldn't have probably done that had you not been as prepared.
That's
I was like,
right.
And that's what happens. People make time.
Yeah, she's right. People do make time.
Yeah.
I found that it's more fun when somebody comes like dressed, ready to play.
Yeah.
And that's a part of, even if West Pointers don't get the job, right? Or a Naval Academy person doesn't get the job. It is my experience having interviewed. I've probably interviewed maybe 100 different West Pointers or Academy grads, big picture. They are the best. And I'm...
That's great to hear.
I'm very... Well, I prepare them to prepare.
Okay.
And I share with them, you need to read the proxy statement of the company. You need to go on to LinkedIn and at least look at who you're interviewing with, and then put yourself in the role and think about your vision, mission, what's going on in that company today, and how does that map with your own experiences. And then you also have to have 10 questions, like have great questions. And in the process of preparing, all of those amazing candidates just do even better, but they prepare fantastic and they have great interview processes and exchanges with everyone. In fact, one gentleman I remember in a first round interview came with a 100-day plan. And he wasn't asked to come above and beyond is really, and again, even if that person isn't the right fit, the reputation that they just crushed it, that helps all of us, I think, actually, as graduates.
A funny story. Once I was interviewing for VP of Marketing for this role and went through several weeks of interviews, and they finally said no. I stayed up till 2 a.m. writing a 100-day plan, sent it to the CEO, and that no turned to a yes. And I was hired. Yeah.
Really?
Because I believed in myself and I gave him the plan.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I can do this. But I think showing, this is another example of showing versus telling. That's
important.
Oh, well, interviews are so marketing.
Anybody can say anything.
Yeah. I mean, you can really say anything. So I used to say it's, hi, my marketing material, meet your marketing material. Yeah, just baloney. That's why, though, the questions that candidates ask at the end are so important, because it's a showing versus telling.
I've done probably thousands of networking calls, over 1,000 interviews. You've done way more on the other side.
Yeah, 1,000 interviews a year.
That's a lot. So you're an expert in this. Let's zoom out. Let's try to boil it down to a few things that people can really take from this conversation.
Okay.
A lot of times what I hear people, and I actually had brunch with a friend of mine yesterday. He spent a whole year looking for a job. And he said, I don't know if this networking thing works. I tried to network. I have 3,000 people on LinkedIn. I said, 3,000. Okay, that's great. He went to HBS. I said, do you know all the HBS people in Manhattan? He's like, no. Why should I? And I said, well, that's your network. You should tap into.
Right.
So what do you think? People really focus on their resume, on the IQ versus the EQ. How do you look at that? What advice would you have for people looking for that next role?
Well, it is IQ gets you to the table, but EQ gets you dessert. So what differentiates CEO candidates or how you can leverage your network, essentially. And I'm going to take both of these in separately. So the first is the network, right? The word networking can be really transactional.
That's true, because when I was talking to him, everything that came out of him was like asking him about a job. And I said, that's not what networking is about.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop the madness. If you're networking to get a job, you are behind the eight ball. You need to be curious. You need to be thinking broadly. You also need to be asking, what can I do to help your business?
Exactly.
Right? Which is a different than I'm looking for something, you're going to give it to me. But that's truly, truly the opposite.
So what is the goal then? Because I'm asked that a lot.
In networking?
What do you think the goal should be?
Well, we're humans on the planet.
Yeah. We're on this journey together and we're trying to help each other. It's more than just what can you do for me right now in terms of a job? That's
right. It is about understanding your real values. And if you haven't done some thinking about that, it's time to grow up and do some thinking about, why are you here? What can you give to the community, to this other person on the other side of the phone or the LinkedIn link? Or because if you're thinking about the transaction, that falls flat.
Well, people feel used.
Yeah, of course. And they should.
The amount of help you'll get is very, very little.
Yeah. Also, I've heard if you ask for advice, you get money. Yeah. And if you ask for money, you get advice. I have a little bit of a model of when someone is looking for a job that first, they really need to think about who they are, their ego needs, what are they solving for at this moment? And then the second thing they need to do is to do a market map of their skills and what's happening in their industry and talk to 20 people, 40 people, a lot of people, and be curious. And then at the end of that call, say, what can I do for you? And say I'm in this moment of discernment, or I'm thinking about transitioning to a new role because I'm 40, because I'm 50, because I'm an empty nester, because I have a big reunion coming up. I mean, something. End state of that phase 2 is knowing which 3 or 4 jobs that you're looking for, and then going out to your network and looking for a job. Then your target is much smaller. So you're in a bullseye. Then you go back to those 40 people that you spoke with and you say, thank you. You helped me align on these 3 jobs, Pepsi, Coke, and Dr. Pepper, and this is why. And I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that I can do for you? And because if you use your network for that transaction, well, first of all, you're going to be scattershot all over. And secondly, it feels too transactional to folks. And then at the end, or the third phase is going to market. So that's where, hey, I know those 3, Coke, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper, and this is why. Do you know anyone at Coke, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper? Because I'd love to meet with them.
And when you've done the research, they'll be more likely to recommend
That's
you.
right.
Yes.
That's right. Because, and that going to market component, you just are stronger when your military term, when your shot group is tighter, right? And then the last phase is interviewing and closing the deal, always coming back and thanking those people that helped you get there. 100%.
I think that's the part people miss a lot. Going back to those people is actually where you're going to get a lot of benefit. And I love sharing this networking story. I might have shared it with you. When I started CareerNerds 7 years ago, I started networking like crazy. I spent an hour with one of my former professors. He said, I don't know anybody I can introduce you to. At the end of the hour, he finally said, there's one person. He introduced me to Carl Savino. Carl Savino said, here's 3 people. And one of them was Miguel Gutierrez, the founding director of West Point's Career Services.
Nice.
So Miguel spends 2 hours trying to convince me to go to West Point and be one of his coaches.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not moving to West Point. That was before Zoom was a thing.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward a couple weeks, I helped him get somebody on his team.
Nice.
Fast forward 3 years, the whole team came to work for CareerNerds.
Yes.
I never asked him for a job. I never saw his resume. He never saw mine.
Yeah.
And we work so well together.
That's nice.
And so that is really what networking is about. And I love
Yeah.
sharing this example to people because when they think transactionally, they're going to get so little out of it. I
Yeah.
wasn't asking him for a job
Yeah.
and he wasn't asking me
Yeah.
for a job either. So Kate, I'm sure
Yes.
you have a lot of stories as well, how networking has really transformed your life.
Yes. Oh, geez. And more than. The idea that is coming to me right now is the cautionary tale, right? Because I'm a leader here at Korn Ferry, and we also have an incredible folks that lead our various divisions. And the blessing and the curse, though, is that my core technical skill, or one of the core technical skills, is recruiting. So I do a lot of other things, but a lot of candidates or potential candidates feel that I have a magic box of jobs where I can.
Don't?
I know. Huh.
Every day I hear people say that recruiters are going to find me a job.
Oh, I'm going to work with a recruiter.
Yes.
Right. Oh, how do I work with a recruiter?
Why is that
Oh,
a common misconception, and why is that not true?
well, I think it's a misconception because folks don't take a moment to think, hey, how does this industry work? Use the Google machine, try to figure out who does this recruiter or even internal HR or talent, who do they work for? What is their life like? Try to have a little bit of empathy and business knowledge to understand how does their business work. And so I think that's the first misstep. So if someone sends an inbound to a recruiter or a search firm because they think that this person is going to work for them, and that's just not true. The recruiters or head of TA or in HR, they work for the company. Now, there are more and more. I mean, I think you're filling a niche where you're actually working for the candidates, or West Point AOG is working for the candidates. Who has our best interest in mind? It's our alumni organizations. They care about you. But the recruiters and the head of TA or HR, all we can do, all we can work on are the mandates that are in front of us. And clients are really picky. They have criteria that is really, really specific. Every now and then, an organization might want an out-of-the-box candidate. But I think that this is where actually military graduates have, frankly, some hubris or an element of they think that they're all that in a bag of chips. I mean, it's
Well,
really
because
tough.
in the military we're told we are the best.
Right.
Yes, we're the best in the military, but
Yeah. Or you
it's
can do anything.
Yes.
And you can do anything. And that is true to much
if you
extent.
prepare for it.
If you prepare and if you have sort of the right training.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not airborne qualified, I probably should not be the commander of the 82nd Airborne. And so if I graduated and with an MBA, I probably am not ready to be the CEO of Procter & Gamble. I think a lot of folks have this idea that if they just send a recruiter their resume or they say, hey, I'm open for jobs, but in truth, it's really difficult to take those calls because first you have to explain what is my industry like. And then secondly, you have to explain that, listen, I don't have a job for you, or even worse, I'm in financial services and you're in supply chain. Why are you talking to me? You haven't even read my LinkedIn. This is like the part about doing your homework. Like, I don't even know the right words in that industry. So that's where I think, though, that someone can do their homework. And when they're ready to talk to a recruiter, they can be pretty buttoned up. They can say, listen, I've done this market study. I'm interested in these 3 companies. This is why. This is where my experience maps in. I might not be ready right today for a job, but I would like to get to know you. How can I help you in your current mandates that you have on your plate today? And I think folks in our industry are more open to taking those kind of courtesy calls, especially also if they're interested or if the folks are interesting, because everyone does want to help veterans, big picture. It's just I'm interested in how, or most people are interested in helping a little bit, but not 3 hours of free coaching.
And that's not your full-time job.
No.
So let's talk about what people can do
Yes.
if they're looking to advance their careers.
First is the thing that folks can do to market themselves is having a great LinkedIn.
Yeah?
Oh, I mean, it is.
I talk about it all the time. You have 7 seconds to make a first impression on LinkedIn.
Yes.
If you don't make it count, you're missing that opportunity.
It is It's the easy bucket. It's like the easy button. Why would you not have a good picture?
Yeah.
This is not the time to have you with your fish, because unfortunately you have that snap judgment. Now, we don't show photos anymore when we show them to clients.
So they don't see the LinkedIn profile?
They can themselves. And we do include it, and it's often included in a resume, or if it's included in materials, but you control it. So why wouldn't you have a great picture? And then in your LinkedIn profile, you have results, not broad descriptions of your responsibilities. So I often say 1 year, 1 success. Even if folks were in a role for a really long time, what are you most proud of? And what do you want to talk about in an interview process? What do you have a good story for? And then even things in your LinkedIn, like who are you following? What are you posting? What are you reposting? How are you celebrating other people's successes? So let's take that financial services, supply chain, consumer goods. So if, as a military officer, if you're going to pivot to consumer goods, wouldn't you want to be following or reposting about earnings calls at different consumer products companies or innovation at consumer products companies? In financial services, you might be following Bloomberg or reposting about some other leaders in the financial services world. Like, hey, what did JP Morgan do this quarter? That's different, right? And so that's already how you have control of your own message. In many ways, you need to be your own chief marketing officer, and you need to be ready to be found when a recruiter or a firm is looking, or you have to be ready to make a great impression those first 7 seconds. And you want to be like Budweiser on the 4th of July, right? You want to be there so somebody can take you from the end cap. And listen, you're not potato chips and I'm not a cheeseburger, but you have to think about yourself as somewhat of a product that someone else is going to want to buy.
So I like that. Start with the LinkedIn profile. That's exactly what we say.
You can control it.
So that's like the door opener. What next?
Well, one of the biggest things is great storytelling. And I'm not talking about the fishing trip. You need to be able to take those experiences and share them in a way that is concise and applicable to whatever job that you're interviewing for. And it takes time to prepare, but we talk about stories or examples having a circumstance, action, and a result, a beginning, middle, and end, or an arc.
Sort of like a 3-act play.
That's right.
And you know, there's a studies show that people remember stories 22 times more than just facts.
I believe it.
So if you don't tell a story, you're probably not going to be remembered.
Well, and remember, the facts got you to the interview. Your results, your reputation got you to the interview. But it's really about sharing your values, your hopes, your dreams, and how you got the results, not did you get the results. And often that's much more a part of the discussion. So those stories are examples brought to life. And the more you can make those tangible and even, I would say, vivid in the moment, you get the 22%, was it 22 times more?
22 times more.
Because I can remember stories that candidates have told me that are really 10 years old, but I don't even remember their name. I don't remember the project we worked on, but I can remember the story like it was yesterday.
So you're very good at storytelling, because even like talking about the time in the Army, a lot of people say, but you talked about being in Bosnia and working with Katusas in Korea. What's your secret for telling stories? Because I think that's the thing people struggle with.
Yes. Well, you have to practice. You have to write it down. You have to write them down, put some thought to what is my command message, right? What's my elevator speech? And then how do I back that up with specific examples? And I have a horrible, but it turned around into a good story. So I learned through pain. That's the real truth.
Pain's a great teacher.
A great teacher. And also I had a really good teacher in Tina Morris, who was class of 94. And I was going to do these investment banking interviews. And she said, Kate, you need to have this CAR method, circumstance, action, result. And Tina was both an MP and also had gotten her MBA, and just a wonderful mentor and friend for me. So I don't know what I'm doing. And so I go and she gives me this advice: circumstance, action, result, beginning, middle, and end. And she said, you also need 2 courses of action. So they're going to ask you some question. You need to have one example, but if it doesn't work, have another one. So I love this, right? Backup plan. And I am in an investment banking interview, and the person asked me about my biggest leadership challenge. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have so many examples. What am I going to say? But I had prepared.
Yeah.
And I had prepared my sort of September 11th, and here we were story. Very personal. Our soldiers just did incredible. They went above and beyond. I talked about how we were deployed over maybe, and I can't remember exactly, but like 30,000 square miles on the northern part of South Korea, and how we ran 24-hour ops for 6 months, and it was so cold. And so this lady, who's a perfectly nice woman, you laughed. She is nothing. She's just like,
She didn't resonate with that.
She's totally bored.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, Tina Morris said pivot. I said, well, I also negotiated for these amazing Cannondale bicycles as the supply officer in my battalion. And I got a great price, and all the other MPs thought they were really cool. And she's like, oh, and so she's leaning in. Tell me more. And so to me, this is like the opposite of and there we were, leadership story. But you don't get to pick. Like she was not interested in the one example, and she was interested in the other. And so you have to follow the ball.
I really love that. Have a backup plan. People always have just one story,
Yeah.
and you need to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. So that's another thing that folks do that really differentiates themselves, is they have an example in narrative form. And then lastly, it's being brief. So tell the story and then be quiet. And people like you more the more that they talk. So actually, at the end of an interview, when you're asking them questions, you're inviting them in. And I'm sure there's a study about this too, but this is just the School of Hard Knocks sharing that data. But people just like you, they want to talk about their job. They want to talk about the company. They want to talk about their careers. So having great questions at the end is really important, and not overselling yourself in that Q&A at the end. Have you ever seen that?
No, what does that mean?
Well, so think about...
How can you prevent from overselling yourself?
Well, think about at the end of an interview, somebody says, oh, geez, Bob, there are 10 criteria. What's the most important criteria? And you say, well, being super commercial and revenue growth. So I say, well, Bob, I am such a revenue producer. Like, oh, geez, I have done this. I have me, I. What the better answer, the better response to that is, has that changed over time? How are your customers responding to that KPI? And so really actually having even more curiosity about Bob's answer to the question, and thinking like a person who is a revenue producer, right? Or is a sales leader, and asking more and more questions about that, like going deep. And I think that that's where people really often misstep.
I think that's true. Yeah. I mean, no human being is perfect. And I recently heard that in the annual report, Warren Buffett always starts off with one mistake we made this year and how we learned from it.
Oh, wow.
And what that does for human beings is they end up trusting that person more when you admit to a mistake, and then you can talk about the successes.
Oh, interesting.
Would you ever do that in an interview, talk about a mistake you made and what you learned?
Well, we ask that all the time. And when we ask questions about mistakes, and I'm getting way better at just having a little more grace with myself in owning my own mistakes or sharing them more broadly. And it's a part of growing up too. But we ask folks about mistakes, both on the leadership side or operational side, and we're looking for pieces of their humanity. We're looking for their humility, their sense of pride. Are they too prideful? Can they admit, and how do they handle it? By the way, the worst mistake is someone saying, like, I work too hard. It's really important to have honest mistakes.
You've led CEO and board succession at many institutions over the last years. What's one thing that people don't realize, how decisions are made behind those closed doors?
Right. Thank you. First, it's a privilege to be able to do that. And it's so fun. I think what I've observed is that excellence and competency get you to the table, but it is your EQ, or it is candidates' EQ and fit that gets them eventually the role at the head of the table. And a lot of people don't appreciate how there are other things going on in the boardroom or with a company. And so it is a little bit about them or their particular skills or their particular business acumen or experience. But there's dynamics between board members. There are agreements or disagreements about strategy. But baseline is competency, excellence, and incredibly high level of execution. What makes, I think, a board and a search committee and a board really want to bring a CEO on are elements of strategic agility, enterprise leadership, humility, the ability to listen, also a great sense of self. These are things that you can't quantify on a piece of paper with a resume, or even tell me about your biggest operational success. Maybe in that you can, but boards want to get a chance to know the candidates. So the CEO search process is super long. A lot of job search processes are long, right? Multiple rounds of interviews. But for C-suite candidates and C-suite jobs, so this could be CFO, COO, CMO, and also the ultimate like president and CEO job, there are often many, many, many rounds of interviews in different settings. You may go to dinner, you may have a panel, you may have a one-on-ones. So I just really encourage everyone to have a lot of patience. And again, to know yourself, understand that market, understand why it's you at this moment in time, and to have a great sense of gratitude. So it's just not about your competency and the results that you have on paper. It's much more than that.
Well, at that level and at any level, you really have to work well with people. But if you're boiling down EQ down to like 2 or 3 of the most important things, what would that be? What can people focus on?
Oh, hard test question, Tom.
Yeah.
The 2 things, excellence is expected, and communication is key. Because what is communication and storytelling? Even we talked a lot about storytelling. Storytelling is creating order out of chaos. Storytelling is unlocking values, communicating a vision. That's a lot of leadership.
So being a great communicator, I love that. And the first thing was excellence. Excellence in what?
Excellence is expected. You're not going to get a pat on the back every time you met your numbers. Like that's to be expected. And excellence, even beating your numbers is expected. And there's an implied task in there that you have to be able to lead yourself. Go on vacation when you need it. You have to be able to turn off your cell phone when you need it. You have to be able to have something outside of your work. That's also in that whole big component of excellence. You have to lead yourself before you can lead others. Great question.
After so many years of helping companies hire senior leaders, how has your definition of great leadership evolved?
Well, thank you. You had asked me along the way around profit and purpose. What do military leaders bring to the world of profit and purpose? And I thought a lot about this in preparing to talk to you today, because all of us in Army land, right, veterans, sometimes think that there is no greater job than being in the Army because we got this, we could be a part of something greater than themselves. I think a lot of people in the private sector think their job has a higher purpose. And your employees think that they have a higher purpose. They all want to be a part of something greater than themselves. I'm super honored that, since I was 17 years old, I've been in a leadership laboratory, right? That's pretty great. All of my military and civilian experiences have allowed me to get to see some pretty amazing people. My platoon sergeants, my squad leaders were great leaders to me and mentors to me and just incredible human beings. I think leadership is always about that values-driven life, right? And wanting to communicate and live your values at your current company, in your current job, with your current team, and do a little bit better each day. And so I think a lot of military folks come out and they say, geez, that was the best job I ever could have had. Nothing's ever going to meet up to that expectation. Or I was so values aligned in the Army or Navy Now, it's all profit driven. Your employees don't want that. Your teammates don't want that. Your customers don't want that. All of those folks want a purpose-driven life. And if you can help unlock that purpose in people, you unleash potential that is catalytic.
And is that something that people can find out on their own? Because when I started coaching, career coaching, I thought, okay, people are going to be wanting to get that next level job, the higher pay.
Right.
But frankly, half the people want to have a job with more purpose.
Well, I actually think that all companies have, it's interesting because just to take a step back, I lead a practice area that's about purpose and profit, right?
Oh, okay.
And no surprise, every company thinks that they have a purpose. They really do. How people live that purpose in their values. Sometimes those are the espoused values, the ones on a piece of paper, right, or on the wall. But a lot of times they're the in-use values. Shout out PL 300, right? The in-use values versus the espoused values. That's culture, right? So you asked how does someone, you can find that out through asking a lot of questions and asking people who used to work there as much as the people who work there today. But that's what I found in, like we said, geez, I never really did the math, but it's 100,000 hours of interviewing. Whoa. And that leadership laboratory over the course of now 30 years, it is about unlocking purpose. And yes, I think you can find it in every company. Or you realize that there's a manager or a leader that doesn't have your same values and doesn't have your same purpose. And you can leave, or you can negotiate with yourself a little bit. Are there peers? Are there other teammates? Or how about your own team? It's the ability of a leader to unlock the purpose in every person that helps unleash an organization.
I think you're right. You said something very interesting. It's how you approach your work. It's also the team, and it's also the company.
That's right.
Because I had a friend, he works at Google. He was about to quit. He got a new manager. He said, I love my job now. Yeah. So he didn't quit.
How about it? People do leave managers.
Yeah.
People do leave managers. And we find with a CEO will know within about 1 or 2 weeks if it's a real fit. Like senior executives know really quickly. And that manager component, every manager, whether you're managing one person or zero, or I guess one person or 100 or 10,000, really impacts the people who work for and with them. And we all love managers and leaders who flip the script, right? Saying, yeah, I'm senior than you, but I really work for you. And those are the best. Those are absolutely the best leaders. And a lot of those, we all have so many of those in common from our West Point and Annapolis and Air Force Academy communities. Those are the real servant leaders that make a difference in people's lives every day.
I agree. I mean, being a leader is being a servant and helping them succeed.
So, Tom, congratulations on going to your reunion next weekend. What are you most excited about?
Well, Kate, that's why we're here, because I was on the way to the reunion. I thought,
Yes.
Let's meet face to face.
Yes.
And really what's exciting for me, connecting with hundreds of classmates in person.
Yeah.
Today in a virtual world, I wanted to meet you in person,
Yes.
and I'm going to get that chance to meet hundreds of my classmates. And so I think that it's so important today to go to meetups and get to know people, because people are people. Virtual world is great, but there's nothing that replaces meeting someone in person.
No, the human connection is amazing. And thank you for letting me ask the last question, right? Because as a recruiter, search professional, I can't resist asking questions. So thank you so much for spending time. And my reunion's next year. So I also really want to go see my classmates in person.
Well, thank you very much, Kate, for meeting with me. And I hope that you have a great reunion next year.
Yes.
And I'll tell you all about mine after this weekend.
Good. And thank you for all you do for our Academy graduates. It's really fantastic.
You're welcome. And thank you for the time today.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.